Welcome to another exciting installment of our TT-01E project. Today we're looking at the suspension and steering. First, the TT-01E comes with these steering links which wobble around, causing excessive play in the steering. That is, until the suspension is compressed, then they bind up and bend. Completely useless. This is a TT-01D, the drift version of the original TT-01. It's supplied with ball end steering, nothing fancy but perfectly good for nice steering. You can see the ball ends allow the suspension to move freely without binding. So we've got these turnbuckles to go on the RCMojo Project TT-01E. But first we're going to fit the 3 racing adjustable camber arms. Right, first the wheels come off and the bumper so we can access all the screws. The instructions are pretty straightforward. The aluminium pins go in the big hole and the turnbuckle in the small one. Thread both parts on the turnbuckle, then tighten it up. It can be a bit fiddly to get it started, but once you go in it's fine. Here is also the first complaint. The aluminium pin is an extremely sloppy fit, allowing the 2 parts to rotate around the turnbuckle a fair bit. Next, the grub screw for the squat adjustment goes in the lower arm. And of course you need to make another pair up for the other side. Now the steel pins go in with the plastic end caps. Hopefully this will work better than the plain plastic Tamiya parts and their wobble. Back to the chassis, we take the hubs off, then the skid plate, followed by the diff cover. Oh, and note which way the diff goes, as it can be a bit embarrassing if you put it in wrong. The stock ball ends need to come out of the stock arms to be pressed into the 3 racing arms. Worth giving them a wipe at this stage to clean off the dirt and dust build-up. Now the whole lot gets reassembled, like the stock parts, arms go in, then the diff cover, and lastly the skid plate. Once done, it's a good time to fit the caster clips, and time for another minor complaint. With the suggested caster clip setup, the arms are very stiff. Not great. Hard to make out, but be careful, the squat grub screws don't interfere with the drive cups. Could be nasty if they meet when at speed. Next, the hubs go back on. Just as the stock ones, make sure you don't over tighten the screws. However, as I discovered, no matter what you do, the steering is extremely tight, as is the suspension. It looks a lot like the balls are just a little too tight in the arms, making them pinch the hubs. So let's rewind and carry on as if that never happened. There are other balls available, I think from 3 Racing, as well as other hubs. They might well work better, but with the parts I have here right now, it's not an acceptable setup. Okay, since the last few minutes never happened, let's start by fitting the Tamiya TT-01 steering turnbuckle set. In the packet you get a pair of brass ball ends, a pair of steel ball ends, a couple of nuts, the turnbuckles and the ball cups. Assembly is easy. First, if you haven't already removed the stock part, remove it. Then fit the brass ball ends to the bell crank and the steel one to the hub. The nut is supposed to go on here too, but there isn't enough thread, so ignore the nuts. Of course, you need to do that to the other side too. A pair of parallel pliers is really handy for this, but you can get away with a supplied spanner too. Look carefully at the threads on the turnbuckle, as one end has a reverse thread. Wind both the ball cups on and match it up with the scale diagram on the instruction sheet, then make another one to match. All you need to do now is clip them on. You can just about get them on by hand, but a pair of pliers does make it a bit easier. Right, there we go. The suspension can now move freely up and down without the steering binding, and there's less play. So, that's another mod done. Again, something that should really be in the basic kit. It's not like it's difficult to put together. Certainly no more so than the shoulder screw job that they come with. There's not too much point in a running comparison, as the turnbuckles won't be visible, but take it from me, it's made the car just a little bit better. Like the other mods, it may be small, but they all add up. Next time, we'll be beefing up the drivetrain with a steel pinion. Why Tamiya uses an aluminium one, I really don't know. And an aluminium prop shaft, which, unlike the stock one, doesn't bend, so it must be better. Don't forget there's lots of RC stuff to read over at rcmojo.com. There's even some pretty pictures to look at.